Have a look. Oh no, there it is there. It's still loading to the channel though. Give it a bit of time. There we go, fantastic. So, good to go. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to round 4 of the PS4 America series on Race Spec Esports. It's time for the Belgium Grand Prix here at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. 4.35 mile, 19 turn, very wet racetrack as it turns out for qualifying. It's the longest circuit in Formula 1 currently, and for some, including myself, it is the best racetrack on the Formula 1 calendar. It's incredibly demanding, incredibly fast. The drivers will be put through their paces for sure in any sort of conditions, even more so in these sort of wet conditions. There are so many parts of this racetrack to cover. You've got turn 1, which is always chaos on lap 1. You've got the most famous part of the racetrack, Eau Rouge and Radion turns 2, 3 and 4, which in these conditions terrifying to go through. You've got Les Combes, that's turns 5, 6 and 7. You've got No Name, turn 9. You've got Pouhon, turns 10 and 11. Got the Stavelot curves of 14 and 15. You've got Blanchimont, and then finally the bus stop chicane. There are so many elements that these drivers have to be careful of, even in the dry, let alone in these intermediate conditions. I believe intermediate conditions anyway. Yeah, as you can see, a lot of the drivers fitting the intermediate tyre. So, for qualifying at least, it should be very chaotic, I imagine. Particularly coming towards this section here. In the dry, Eau Rouge and Radion can be taken flat out. Can't take this flat out in the wet. Especially when it comes over the crest at Radion, the car gets light. When the track's nice and slippery, you can spin out of control and end up in the tyre barriers that line either side of the racetrack. Disqualified from the session, Jay Stee blocking the pit lane. He'll be starting from plumb last on 20th place on the grid. We have a full field of cars for tonight's race. Lucid disqualified as well. 2 drivers disqualified from the session for blocking the pit lane. Can't stop at pit lane exit, boys. You have to get a move on. And there's the Alfa Romeo, I believe, of JST. He was parked up over there somewhere. And the McLaren of Lucid, he'll pull off to the side eventually. So already a bit of drama in this qualifying session. I believe Lake Show will be the first driver to try and set a flying lap here at Spa. The lap effectively begins at the final corner. Need a good run out of there to maximize the top speed heading down the pit straight. See what he does. I've seen pro drivers take an unorthodox line where they go really wide through here. This is more of a traditional racing line from Lake Show as he begins his lap. Heading towards turn 1, Le Source. 7th gear down to 2nd. Over that in these conditions. It's very difficult to gauge your braking points. Now heading into Eau Rouge and Radion. This is flying by the seat of your pants through here sideways. A little bit more sideways. And here we go into the wall and he's out. So going over that crest, the car goes very light. And there we go, he spun out and into a concrete barrier. Dear oh dear. We go with KD, though I do believe a couple of the Williams cars are on flying laps. Right on board with him, see if he can deal with this complex or understeers. But the car's quite stable through there, this racing point. As Kenny has retired from the session, what has happened to him? He has crashed at the beginning of turn 7. That's an interesting place to crash. We'll see if KD can't pick it up. Oh dear. So he has spun at turn 6, I reckon. And he couldn't gather it up and he crashed into the wall there. At the beginning of turn 7. That's a very odd incident indeed. KD coming towards turn 9. No name, as it's called, as originally with this track, that corner wasn't given a name. And now it's just known as no name. Puon is next. That inside curve is deadly. Nero Nix making a mistake there. Getting out of the way of KD, who was sliding his way through turn 11. Now making his way to 12 and 13. I love these corners here. I have no idea why. Lequito off the racetrack on the grass, trying to get out of the way of everybody. Through the first Stavolo and into the second Stavolo curve goes KD. Now, in the dry, this section is completely flat out all the way up to the bus stop chicane, but I imagine KD might lift a bit here. He does. Just briefly cast sideways. He's trying to find grip, and he managed to find a little bit of it. Heading into the bus stop. Third gear through the first part. He keeps it in third, so then he doesn't get any sort of wheel spin on the exit. Towards the line, he sets the first flying lap at 1 minute 53.959. See what everyone else can do. JCK is on a flying lap. KD's teammate Flavius on a flyer as well. Hildebeest does a 56.6. Captain Schmeg replies with a 56.5. So are the conditions worsening here at Spa, I wonder? Because that is a considerable difference in time. What about SWM Alp? He's coming towards the end of his flying lap. Doberman has done a 57.4. Keep an eye on the top right. What's the time going to be? 51, 52, 53. There goes KD's time. It's a 54.8. I reckon the track conditions might indeed be worsening here. KD might be difficult to beat. See, there's a Ferrari coming to the end of his flying lap at Sully. 48, 49, 50. He's going to be slower than Doberman. He's got an AlphaTauri behind. It's Gentleman Seth. And it looks like he's going to be setting a 2-minute lap time as well. 2 minute 1.2. Both Sully and Gentleman Seth in the 2 minutes. JCK towards the end of his flying lap. Through the bus stop. 50, 51, 52, 53, 54.6. Jumps up to second place. 7/10 behind our current pole sitter. Passassin, one of the fill-in drivers for tonight on a flyer, heading towards Puon. This is probably one of the more treacherous corners on the racetrack, purely because of that inside curve. It is incredibly deadly. You touch that at an awkward enough angle, you're definitely spinning round. And on the first couple of laps, ooh, Assassin, using the inside curve at 13, that's also another place where you can't use too much curve. He's got SWM Alp in front of him, who will get out of the way. He's not on a flyer. Assassin heading towards Blanchimont. His speed about 317 kilometers an hour. In the dry, it's about 320. Hard on the brakes for the bus stop. Second gear, nice and gentle. Nice and gentle with the inputs. Third gear, minimizes wheel spin. And it's a 1 minute 53 flat. So the track conditions probably aren't getting as worse as I first thought they were. He is a bit under 9/10 clear of KD. That's a fantastic lap time in these conditions. As SWM Bean is making his way through the bus stop. Nice and gently on the throttle. It's going to be a 54.4. Jumps up to P3. So there we go. We've got 4 drivers out of the session already. We've still got 9 minutes left. There could be another incident at some stage. Snake and Beans on a flyer, exiting La Source. Up through the gears, 7th gear, 8th gear. There's a stopped Ferrari in the 3rd sector. That's probably Sully, I imagine, sideways, and invalidates. That's how brutal the game is. You make a colossal error like that, you gain no time, but because you had all 4 wheels over the white line, it's an invalidation. It's unfortunate, but that's how the game works. Lucarito Judge making his way up, and a similar mistake, though he doesn't invalidate. He must have kept at least one wheel over the white line, and he doesn't get an invalidation. Through the chicane, nice and gently on the throttle, not applying too much. It's all about patience in these conditions. You have to be very careful with your inputs. That's a bit too careful. Oh dearie me. Are the conditions actually worsening right now? I just wonder. Blender on a flyer, but he's on 3-lap-old intermediate tyres, and a fair amount of running on these. He's currently third fastest. He's down by 4/10 in the first sector though, so he's not really on a competitive lap. Bean has JCK has invalidated. Bean has improved to second place with a 1 minute 53.7. KD is now starting another flying lap. He was holding pole position for some time. Let's see if he can improve. Down the hill towards Eau Rouge and Radion. See the throttle inputs as Flavius has crashed out of the session. We're right on board with Alp. We'll get a better look at this. It's Blanchimont. That's a big crash right there. Impacted the tyre barrier and he's out of the race. Ooh, and Alp completely overshoots the bus stop. And there's the wide line I was talking about at the chicane. Take a nice wide line so then you can maximise the speed on the pit straight. And heading into turn 1, hard on the brakes. Locks up a little bit. First gear, short shift to third to minimise wheel spin. Nice exit. And he's actually flicking between hot lap and no ERS as well. That way he can further control the wheel spin in those critical traction zones. We'll see what his first sector split looks like. And we'll go and have a look at KD as he's about to finish the second sector. And Alp is up by 3/4 of a tenth of a second. KD, second sector says he's up by 8/10. If he can continue this sort of momentum, he might jump up and retake pole position. Bean is coming towards the end of a flying lap, overshooting a little bit there at the second to last corner, comes around the final corner, 51, 52, 53.2. He improves by half a second, maintains second place. What about KD? Coming up towards the line, it is a 53.015. He retakes pole position, but only by half a tenth of a second. Alp, second sector says he's purple, up by 8/10. If he can continue that, he'll crack into the 53s. But he needs a tremendous improvement in this final sector if he wants to take pole. Through Blanchimont, a bit of a lift there at about 85% throttle through there. And into the bus stop chicane. I could hear locking up there. I don't think it's cost him too much momentum. Towards the line, it's a 53.7, jumps to 4th place. He improves by 1 second. So now we've got 4.5 minutes left in the session. Some drivers on outlaps. This may be them setting up for their final flying laps. They might do more than just one run in this session or in this time frame. Sometimes it's not a bad idea to do multiple runs on an intermediate or a wet tyre. Sometimes you can find a little bit more pace on a scrub set. Let's see if I can't find anyone on a flyer. JCK is not. Hildebeest might be. A bit like Alp, he is switching between overtake and none with his ERS. That way you can further control the wheel spin. Round Pouhon. 8th gear into turn 12, down the gears, 4th gear. Doberman has retired in the pit lane with 3.5 minutes left. He's satisfied with 11th. No one else has crashed out just yet. Everyone's behaving themselves. Hildebeest up by 1.5 seconds, so conditions must be improving. To gain that sort of time, the conditions must be changing. Blanchimont. Only 309 kilometers an hour there for Hildebeest. I've seen drivers in the 310s through there, so he might be using some higher wings, some higher wing angles. As Hildebeest jumps up a position, he improves by 1.7 seconds, but that only puts him P8 at the moment. Bender. 2.5 minutes left in the session, coming through turn 1. 3rd gear, nice and gentle on the throttle. 4th, 5th, 6th, down the hill. 7th gear, 8th gear, now Eau Rouge and Radion. Flat through Eau Rouge, a bit of a lift up the hill, then back on the throttle at the exit of Radion. On the Camel Straight, there's a Ferrari in front. Is that Alp? It is. His sector 1 says he's down by a tenth there. We'll see if he can make an improvement in the 2nd sector. What about Bender? What was... it won't pop up with his sector 1 time, so that's unfortunate. Coming into No Name, turn 9, 4th gear, or a bit wide there. I thought he might have had all 4 wheels over the white line at that moment. 6th gear through Pouhon. There's a Haas in front, getting out of the way. It's Hildebeest. Very good of him to do that. Round turn 12, then turn 13. JCK has retired from the session on track as well. Same with Gentleman Seth. Both cars retire from the session. So neither AlphaTauri will be improving their position. Bender heading towards Blanchimont as Passassin does a 52.6 and retakes pole. Can Alpum improve? He is low on fuel. I reckon this will be his final attempt at trying to get pole. It's a 52.7. It's not enough, but he does claim 2nd for now. Bender, did he invalidate somewhere? I wonder. He's maintained 5th place. I'm not sure if he improved though. I'll check race director in a moment. Bean now setting off on his final flying lap. KD, he's coming up to the bus stop chicane. He's getting ready to set his final flying lap. We'll go with Bean for now. He needs to find about 6/10 over the course of this lap if he wants pole. On the edge of your seat stuff through there. Very, very scary. Snake and Beans is out of the session. I believe he's crashed at Blanchimont, or just after Blanchimont. And Bean is up by almost 0.2 of a second in the 1st sector. What about KD? He's on the Camel Straight, heading towards the 1st sector split. What does it say? He is up by almost 1/10. He needs to find about 4/10 if he wants pole. Bean making his way through turn 9. Heading towards Pouhon. 8th gear down to 6th gear. Gently on the throttle, trying to find the grip. There's a couple slow cars in front. He needn't worry. 3rd gear through turn 12. 4th gear through 13. Uses a bit of the curb on the exit. And now into the 1st Stavilo. Now what does Sector 2 say? He's up. Passassin's improved though. He's done a 52.3 effectively. So Bean needs to find about 1 second if he wants pole. KD is out. He has crashed at Pouhon. He will not be improving from P3. Bean making his way to the bus stop chicane for the final time. He really throws it in there. Can he claim pole? 59, 49, 50. He's done it! Only just though. That is incredibly close. 600ths of a second separating the top two. Bean, right at the death, has claimed pole. It is Possession in second, Alp in third, KD in fourth, Captain Schmeg in fifth, Blender in sixth, JCK in seventh, Wildebeest in eighth, Detail in ninth, and Nero Nix rounding out the top 10. We'll just be waiting on Alp to wheel his car into the pits and we can get this qualifying session over and done with. But there we go. SWM Beam pulls it out of the bag right at the depth of this session. Incredibly close between the top two. In these sort of conditions as well, that makes it even more impressive, really. When it's wet like this, you tend to see quite big gaps in qualifying, but as you can see with the rest of the field, I suppose, from first down to 14th, it's 5.3 seconds, so it's quite big, but the top two separated by next to nothing. So we went through the top 10, just outside the top 10, Liquito in 11th, Snake and Beans in 12th, Doberman in 13th, Flavius in 14th, Gentleman Seth in 15th, Sully in 16th, Lake Show in 17th, Kimmy in 18th, JSD in 19th, and Lucid rounds out the field in 20th. 4 drivers did not set a time, 2 of them were disqualified for blocking the pit lane exit. So they'll be starting from plumb last with a lot of work to do. I have no idea what the conditions are going to be like for the race. I assume it's going to be dry. We'll just have to wait and see. But it appears as if in almost every single race we've had at Spa in Race Spec, it's always had some sort of element of wet weather, and we might get wet weather here. It's dry for the moment, but as you can see, it is quite gloomy. It's overcast here at Spa. So we might see a little bit of wet weather at some point during the race. We'll have to wait and see. Excuse me. The drivers will now be deciding what kind of strategy to go with, whether to start on the soft or medium tyre. Oh, okay, so it's a dry, wet, dry race. That's interesting. Thank you very much for that. So it's going to be dry at the start, then it will go to wet conditions, then it will go back to dry. I hate these sort of races. I really do, because I don't like driving in conditions where it's not wet enough for the intermediate tyre, but it's not dry enough so then the slick tyre operates correctly. It's sort of in the middle, and you're constantly you're in sort of constant fear of losing control and hitting a barrier or spinning out into someone or something like that, because you never truly know when it switches to intermediate conditions until you see the DRS disabled sign come up. Before that point, you're sort of guessing, half guessing where to brake, half guessing where to steer, half guessing when to apply the throttle on corner exit. It is incredibly terrifying. So I truly hate those sort of races where it goes from dry to wet and you're stuck on the slick tyre just waiting for the intermediate conditions to come. You go onto the inter, and if it becomes dry again, what do drivers do? Do they stick it out on the intermediate? Well, I guess I suppose it's how many laps to when the second dry spell comes. We'll see drivers dive into the pits. Oh, okay, that really shakes things up for sure. Everyone's starting on the soft except for Nero Nix in 10th. He's on the medium tyre. An interesting call. The soft tyre, according to the game, can last about 10 laps. Your pit window is actually about lap 8 or so. After lap 8, the soft tyres really do fall off a cliff. The medium tyre can last about 15 laps. But if the wet conditions are coming, they'll come fairly soon, I imagine. field is incredibly spread out. What are these guys doing back here? Why are there such tremendously large gaps in the field? Hopefully this won't take us too much time for everyone to line up on the grid. But with SWM being on pole, can he maintain that first place heading into turn 1? It tends to be pretty chaotic through there. It's even more chaotic when you see guys go side by side through Eau Rouge and Radion. It tends to be a nightmare when you see that sort of stuff. But everyone's lined up, I believe. Everyone should be ready to go. This is it. When do the lights come on? Still on the grid. What's going on? Oh, here we go. Everyone's lined up. Everyone's ready to go. We have 5 red lights. And it's lights out. And away we go. Bean gets off the line well. He will hold the lead into turn 1. Oh, a bit of a lag swipe there for Bean. Dear me. He will hold the lead. Assassin holds second. Oh, what's going on back here? We've got drivers side by side in the midfield. Now into Eau Rouge for the first time in race conditions. The top 5 or so, all of them line astern. What about the midfield? Do we see any side-by-side action through here? No, everyone appears to have gotten through relatively okay. Flavius and Lakeshore are side-by-side. In fact, it's 3 wide. Kitty's getting involved. And he passes them both. He's into 14th now, after he crashed out in qualifying. Now Lakeshore trying to get past Flavius. Almost made contact, but Lakeshore gets past. Kemi attacking his teammates down the inside at turn 8 with the negative camber that wants to push you away from the racing line. He's now into 13th place. Lakeshore on the attack. Or Laquito runs wide and Lakeshore gets past into 14th place. So there's a bit of stuff going on in the midfield. What about the top end of the field? Bean is still leading the way, but he hasn't pulled away from Assassin. Alp is behind Assassin in 3rd, and KD is keeping the top 3 company in 4th. Captain Schmeg in 5th place at the moment, trying to hang on to said top 4. But quite nice to see that everyone has gotten through the first lap relatively okay, as JCK has a colossal moment at the exit of the bus stop chicane. He has lost a few positions and he's now down in 8th. He couldn't control the car. He still can't control the car, it seems. Getting on the throttle too much there. Back end just stepped out, and here comes Nix. He's all over the back of the AlphaTauri, heading on to the Camel Straight. And a virtual safety car has been deployed as Laquito Jar Jar has crashed at the top of Radion. It was bound to happen, really. It's unfortunately Laquito who is below there. But only a virtual safety car. Shouldn't affect the race too much, unless someone gets a drive-through penalty, which is entirely possible. Through Puon. When does it go back to green? Still virtual, still virtual. Green has pulled away a little bit here. He does need to be careful. He's backing off. Gentleman Seth and Lakeshore have just exchanged positions. Drive through there for Sully, speeding on the virtual safety car. He'll have to serve that soon. That will be a massive blow for his points chances in this race. Down in 17th, he's going to be a long way behind the field now with that drive through. Bean sideways through 18, then through 19. Assassin on the attack with that glitching gearbox. So that's the gearbox I've been hearing. That is constantly changing gears. And it's now starting to rain. See, there is raindrops on the halo. So this is where drivers have to be really careful with their inputs, the steering, the braking with the throttle. And here comes Passassin on the attack using DRS. He slingshots by Bean with ease and takes the lead of this race. Bean just slots in behind, will follow Passassin over the course of the lap, and perhaps will try and attack him on the next lap when he gets DRS. That's if he can stay with Passassin. Of course, sector 1 and 2, yellow flags, it is Lucid. He ended up in the barrier as Blender gets a 3-second time penalty and Lucid has damage. And off the circuit, it is Passassin. He has crashed out and a safety car has been deployed. There he is there. He has had a moment at Puon. I reckon he did it by himself. I'll have a look at Bean's car. There's no damage on it, so I'm hazarding a guess he has done that by himself. A drive-through penalty for Lucid for speeding. I have a theory he probably touched the inside curb at turn 10, unsettled the car, and he spun out into the tyre barrier at the exit of turn 10. That's unfortunate, really, to see one of the drivers leading the way crash out like that. Drivers are staying out, except for Bean, not Bean, Alf. He's coming in. Smeg comes in as well. And what are they going on to? Set of intermediate tyres. I reckon this is too early. I have a feeling that this is too early. It's a gamble. It might pay off, but just knowing what Spa is like, it takes a really long time for it to turn to intermediate conditions. It takes an equally long time as Nero Nix gets a 5-second penalty for a severe collision with JCK. It takes a really long time to go from intermediate conditions to dry conditions. So, I don't know. They're taking a gamble, these two, and it might pay off, but yeah, they've got a lot of work to do to try and keep those tyres in check in these sort of conditions, because they're going to burn up quite a bit. Some drivers have got a few penalties to deal with. Unfortunately for someone like Nix, that 5-second penalty they will have to serve in the pit lane. So he's going to be unable to remove it, unfortunately. Appears only those 4 drivers, Alp, Smeg, and the 2 McLarens, they're the only ones to have pitted onto the intermediate tyre. Everyone else has elected to stay out. We'll just be waiting on said McLarens to catch up to the end of the train, though they've got a lot of work to do to try and catch up and not crash as well, because those tyres will be absolutely shredding themselves to pieces. Tell you what, we'll have a quick look at this just ever so briefly. Looking at the incident. So yeah, a drive-through penalty for Sully for speeding under virtual safety car. And then we got Lucid as well, who's got a drive-through penalty for speeding under this safety car. So both of those drivers will have to... Oh, hello, what's going on here? The top 2 are in. Bean and KD in the pit, same with Hildebeest, JCK. This mustn't be a coincidence. Jeff must have given them the order to come in to pop on to the intermediate tyre. So as it turns out, Alp and Schmeg have made a fantastic decision pitting in and putting on these intermediate tyres. It leaves only Patel and Gentleman Seth at the front of the field, the only drivers to have not pit. Actually, J. Stee hasn't pitted as well. He's on soft tyres. The soft tyres that he started on. Okay, I wonder. We'll see what these guys can do on the soft tyre, whether they have any pace compared to those on the intermediates at this stage. Lucid is back in the pits. He must have made a mistake at some stage and damaged his wing. He's got it replaced. He has to get a move on if he wants to try and catch up to the pack. But I believe the safety car will most likely be in this lap. I don't think he'll stay out any longer as Alp is exploring track limits at the exit of turn 9. He's trying to get some temperature into the tyre. Let's see. We'll have to wait until the end of sector 2 to see whether... Oh, Sully, a 3-second time penalty. Multiple warnings. No, well done Alp and Schmeg. A fantastic call to pit immediately onto the intermediate tyre. Everyone else effectively has done the same. So now they are leading 1-2 out of the intermediate runners. And no, we are going another lap on the safety car. Oh wow. Oh dear. So we have to wait a little bit longer for us to go back on the green flag racing. Unfortunately, Nix has decided to go on to another set of softs at the back end of the field. He'll have to come in and switch onto a set of inters. There's no way he'll be staying out on those. What about Detail and Gentleman Seth? Yeah, they're both going in. So that now makes Alp our race leader. Captain Schmeg in second and Bean takes third. All of the soft runners pitting in to go on to the intermediate tyre. Now we've just got the long wait till safety car comes in, I suppose. That means Lucid jumps up to 15th, perhaps 16th, 15th? 15th. Comes out in front of Gentleman Seth. But he's got a drive-through penalty which he must serve at some point. Sasson has left the session. Okay. So that puts a big reset on things. We effectively get a second race start, but this time when the track is nice and wet. Now, Bean showed his pace in these conditions in qualifying. Can he transfer that pace that he had into the race? He's currently third. He has to overtake Captain Schmeg and Alp if he wants to retake the lead. And in these conditions, it's not particularly easy to overtake. Making their way round to the third sector. I am certain that the safety car will be in this lap. And sure enough, there it goes. Speeding off into the distance. Alpoon, he will control the field. He'll back the field up to allow the safety car to go into the pits safely, and we can get this race back underway. He will also decide when to go back under green flag racing. Captain Schmeg needs to be on his toes. Drivers furiously their tyres to try and get some temperature into them. Make their way around Blanchimont, heading towards the bus stop chicane. When does Alp go? He is holding the field, holding. And here we go. Through the bus stop chicane. Alp will try and get a nice exit out of here and try and pull away. Doesn't really get that though, but he still maintains the lead. So lap 7 has begun of 22. Alp leads, Meg in second, Bean in third. KD in 4th place, Bender in 5th with a penalty next to his name. Doberman in the McLaren, making a similar call to what Alp and Schmeg did. Pitted initially. He's up in 6th place. Oh, and what's happened here? Got a bunch of cars exchanging position. They're heading towards Eau Rouge. And they eventually sort themselves out. But there's Sully. He's lost a fair amount of time and ground. He does have that drive-through he has to serve. Next, getting past JC for 15th place. He's through and into the points. Meanwhile, JCK applying pressure to Snake and Beans for 8th as the McLaren runs wide. Doberman runs very wide there. Heading into Pouon. 6th gear. Not touching the curb. You really can't touch the curb. Oh, sideways there. A little bit sideways was JCK. As what's happened to Bean? He has spun out onto the infield and he's lost several positions. Now down in 5th, and his tyres will be incredibly cold, and he's got damage as well. He's missing an M plate. So he's made contact with something. He'll have to come into the pits and get that replaced. He really doesn't have a choice. I feel he'll lose too much time if he tries to fight on with this sort of damage. See what he does. Sure enough, he's peeling into the pit lane. So even though with all the hard work he did in qualifying, it's not looking like it's going to be a good race for SWN Bean. It's not looking good at all. Lucid into the pits, he'll be serving the drive-through, same as Sully, he'll be serving the drive-through as well. Making their way through Eau Rouge and Radion. This group of cars, oh, Snake and Beans runs wide. And he gets overtaken as well by Kimmy. Snake and Beans down to 9th place, heading towards Lake Com. There's Lake Show introducing himself to the battle. JCK trying to get past Doberman, who has maintained 6th place. After the restart, he's doing a good enough job to hang on. He'll be using these sort of conditions to his advantage. It is not easy to overtake. Oh, but he hasn't done himself any favours there. Running wide. Lost all momentum, and JCK gets past into 6th place. Doberman runs wide, costing him more momentum. This time Kimmy is all over the back of him. Heading towards 12 and then turn 13. Still hanging in behind, heading towards the end of the 2nd sector. Is unable. Oh, Doberman runs wide. He had to get off throttle. And now side by side, heading towards Blanchimont. Doberman has the inside line. He's gotten back in front. But Kimmy trying to look for a pass here. Can't get it done though, as Lake Show has overtaken Snake and Beans for 9th. Kimmy's got a bit better run. Unable to get past though. He might be able to have a crack here if he can get better traction on the exit. He can't. Doberman hangs on for now. Meanwhile, top 2 is Alp and KD. They are separated by 4.5 seconds. Alp has put his foot down, pulled away tremendously as Timmy finally gets past Doberman. Captain Schmeg trying to hang on to a podium place as Niru Nix is out of the session, crashing out at the top of Radion. There he is there, big smash there. And a safety car has been deployed. A safety car has been deployed. Safety car number 2 for this race. Oh dear, oh dear. So we get another field reset effectively. Now, is it still raining? It is. You can see raindrops on the car, still raindrops on the halo. But I wouldn't say it's heavy rain either. I think it might be easing off a little bit. Wonder if there's anyone who is going to gamble and perhaps put on the soft tyre again, or perhaps even a set of mediums. Because it's definitely not heavy rain. What's Alp up to? Is he going to go in? He isn't going to go in. He thought about it. Captain Schmeck stays out, Bender stays out, Hildeby stays out, JCK stays out. Kimmy thinks about it, but stays out. Lake Show stays out. Snake and Beans stays out. Flavius stays out. So it appears as if no one wants to be a hero. This man might be, though. That's neutral, Bean. Oh, come on! I thought you were going to pit. I thought he was going to be a hero. Pit in for fresh tyres. Some soft tyres. Be the hero. And why not? You don't really have too much to lose down in 15. Gamble. Why not? But as you can see, there's still quite a bit of spray coming off the cars. The rain has stopped, but there's still plenty of moisture on the racetrack. But if I was someone like Bean in that sort of situation, I would have gambled. Not losing too much if you gamble. Put on a set of softs and see what happens, or a set of mediums. See what happens. Because if you put on a set of softs, you are going to struggle a little bit to get to the end. But it's not entirely impossible to do that. We'll just have to wait for everyone to bunch up, and this has given Lucid and Sully a massive reprieve. Their drive-throughs definitely took themselves out of contention. This safety car will fix that. And only 2 drivers so far have got penalties next to their name, so everyone's keeping it clean and tidy at the moment. Now, what is anyone going to do now? Are they going to pit? Are they going to stay out? See Alp, what is he up to? He's not going in. Katie's not going in. Smeg isn't. Blender is. He's taking a gamble. I like this. Coming in. What is he going to pit to? Sadie's Garage coming up. It's a set of mediums, probably the safest option, with 12 laps to go. Seth in the pits, a few drivers in the pits, they are gambling. I like this. Because then you see these underdog drivers who you don't see towards the top of the table most of the time, make these brilliant calls and they come out on top because of it. It's all or nothing sort of mentality. It's fantastic. Snake and Beans definitely gambling. He's on the soft tyre. Now these guys have to be very, very careful in these conditions. The tyres will be stone cold. You'll have no traction. You have to be very patient You have to wait for the track to evolve. As you can see, it looks dry. But this is a trick with Spa. When it looks dry, it still isn't. You have to wait until the DRS enabled call comes in. Either that, or you get a call from Jeff to come in and pit for some tires. Right now, according to the game, there is still moisture on the racetrack, even though it looks bone dry. So these guys are probably going to struggle initially. But when it changes, they're going to be incredibly rapid. Just be waiting on Lucid to claw onto the back of the train. And we can get this race going again. Safety car is still out there. It won't be coming in this lap, I think. No, it is. There it is. They're speeding away from the leader. So Alp once again controls the field. He'll get to decide when to get this race back underway. Warming the tyres up, getting temperature. Safety car is pulling into the pit lane now. How will those medium runners fare right now in these conditions? They are making their way round to the bus stop chicane, and he goes. And he builds a small margin over KD. Oh, and he pits. Oh, and they're all pitting, in fact. They're all pitting. Look at them, all of them diving one after the other. So this has been a masterstroke call from these guys then. An absolute masterstroke. Some drivers have stayed out. Bean has stayed out. But they all just pour in. This is what happens when you gamble, folks. It can end incredibly poorly. But then you get moments like this, where you just come out on top. Bean is leading the way. Bender is in second. Gentleman Seth is in third. Snake and Beans on soft tyres, is in fourth. He is going to be very fast in these sort of conditions. Flavius is under attack from Detail. Lucid is in seventh. And there's Alf. The fairway's behind. He's got a lot of work to do. But he's got KD all over the back of him, ready to attack into Lake On. He's going to have to go around the long way. They make contact, I think. But KD gets it done. A fine move. And he's now into 8th place. Snake and Beans is on the attack. Those soft tyres will feel fantastic in a few moments' time. See here, Blender. He is gaining on Bean. Gaining. 0.6. Half a second now. As KD has just overtaken Lucid for 7th place. What a masterstroke. What a brilliant call. And Bean's in a lot of trouble. He's locking up. He's got no traction. The tyres will be cooking themselves. Lake show a 3-second tyre penalty. And there's Bender using ERS. Bean doesn't really attack. And here comes Snake and Beans and Gentleman Seth. They're all on the attack. Oh, Beans, a bit sideways, a bit shaky there. Through Blanchimont they go. Bean will be going into the pit lane. And the two cars behind should know that. Oh, but Beans is going to send it anyway. This might be nasty. This is definitely going... Oh, that was a bit silly from Snake and Beans, if I'm totally honest with you. He should have known that Bean was going to be pitting. He's on intermediate tyres. He had to go into the pits. It would have been far better if he was patient and just let him go in rather than just send it down the inside of the chicane. But regardless, there's no incident that I've seen. But did Bean get wing damage from that? Yeah, it doesn't appear to have, the way he goes. There we go. Bender leading the way. Bean in second. Seth on the attack using ERS, sitting in the slipstream. Can't get the move done though. He sits in behind the Renault for now. And KD now into 4th place. Hunting down the cars in front. He's on a charge, but those soft tyres do still have a little bit of a question mark next to them. As I said, they can last about 10 laps. We've got 10 laps to go right now, and he's done 1 flying lap on these things. And once you get to about 70% of wear, You're now in the hands of the gods. After that point, it's entirely possible to get a puncture at any stage after you hit about 70% wear. Alp has overtaken Flavius for 5th place. KD trying to pull away from Alp. Alp maybe driving a bit more conservatively, knowing the scenario he's in. He has to get these tyres to the end. KD, though, is on a full-on assault. He's attacking Gentleman Seth around the outside at Blanchimont. He won't be able to get this done here, surely. He's going to try, though, and that's a a penalty to his name now. He didn't really need to go for that sort of move that quickly, and it's cost him dearly. That's a penalty. That's a 3-second penalty. That might cost him at the end of the race. We'll have to wait and see. As DRS is now enabled, it's definitely dry conditions. JCK setting fastest laps. He's down in 10th place at the moment. Yeah, that move didn't really need to go for it, in all honesty. He could have played a more patient game, but he decided to go for it. And yeah, it's cost him 3 seconds now. As KD on the back of Snake and Beans. He's gaining and gaining. Not close enough, though, to attack. Seth, 2 seconds behind, steadily losing ground. But they're not completely out of it just yet. Those medium runners are not out of it just yet. KD on the attack. It's a 2nd place. His next target is Blender. 3.1 seconds ahead. Alp on the attack. He's near Seth. They're side by side. Seth recognized he was coming through, gave him room, didn't turn in. Ooh dear. Very close to track limits there, Alp. That's even worse. How much did you cut there? That had to have been a warning. Up and Schmeg now hunting down Gentleman Seth. In the background, JCK is on the attack. And he gets to tail into 9th place he goes. Seth, a 3-second time penalty for warnings. Now the penalties are starting to show. KD setting fastest laps. He needs to be careful though. Still a big question mark in regards to those tyres. JCK making a move here. His next target is Kimmy. Schmeg on the back of Seth. Looking around the long way at turn 5. Down the Camel Straight, he gets him well before the braking zone. Now into 5th place. At the moment, Bender is holding his own on those medium tyres. And the longer he stays in front, the better off he'll be. He needs to keep this sort of pace up. These tyres should make it fairly easily to the end. Alp on the back of Beans. 4/10 separating the two. Heading towards turns 12 then 13. Hildebeest, a 3-second time penalty. Multiple warnings. Now into turn 14. Alp on the attack up the hill towards Blanchimont. Gap is 2/10. Alp, I think he should be patient. He can't risk an accident here. Oh, Snake and Bean is all over the place there and gets a 3-second time penalty. Oh, they almost make contact. But Alp gets him in the braking zone at the bus stop chicane. So he's setting fastest laps. They have 7 to go. I don't know, this is going to be interesting. This is going to be very interesting. Being setting fastest laps. He's down in 11th place. Gavin Schmeg on the attack. Can he get Snake and Beans here? I don't think he will. Beans is running low on ERS. Almost hitting 0%. In the background though, we almost have 3 wide here. Seth, JCK and Kimmy They are battling here, heading towards Acom. They are side by side, the two Alpha Tauri cars. They tried to go side by side through turn 7. They can't make it work though. So JCK now in 6th place, Seth in 7th, and Kimmy in 8th. I'll try and get past Seth here as quickly as he humanly can. Bean is on the attack. Will he go for it here? And he does, but Flavius doesn't put up too much of a fight. Bean now into 9th place. Seth and Kimmy battling side by side through 13, heading towards 14. Kimmy has the outside line by better traction, and he gets the position, a fine move, into 7th place. And now we got this at the front of the field, KD on the attack. Blender right in front. He now has DRS to his advantage. I reckon Blender might really try and defend hard right now, though I feel as if his efforts might be in vain. Heading onto the Camel Straight. Hildebeest has retired, or left the session rather, as KD takes the lead. Seth, the 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings, but Blender, I don't think he's out of this just yet. KD's got pace right now, but those tyres are going to shred themselves to bits. I'm sure that battle for the win is not over just yet. Snake and Beans at the moment trying to keep up with JCK. Sector 1 and 2 yellow flags. It's Lakeshore. He's made a mistake, some description. He's now down in 15th place, and here comes Sully. We're going to go through side by side here. Well, not quite. Lakeshore comes out in front, only just though. Bean attacking Seth. Oh, it's Bean has spun out. He has spun. Gonna get going here. Can't lose too much time. But I wonder, did he make contact with Seth there? I didn't get to see. Didn't appear to be contact, but regardless, Bean is spun round down in 11th place now, outside the 10. It's KD setting fastest lap still. Pulled away tremendously from Bender. He needs to be within a second here, and he is within a second. Well done. He keeps DRS. Both drivers, I believe, 3 seconds each, so they are genuinely battling for position. Still quite a few laps to go, 5 laps. That's a long time around here. It's a lot of kilometers still to go, still to run. JCK attacking Captain Schmeg. Gap is 7/10. It's the closest battle on track at the moment. Heading through No Name. Gap increases a little bit there. Through turns 12 and 13. Schmeg closes in on Alp right now. He's less than a second behind the Ferrari. Now the top two, separated by 1.7 seconds. Through the chicane. Now we have 4 laps to go. Can Bender keep up with KD? Can KD get those tyres to the end? Will they still be competitive at the end? Once they hit about 8 laps of life, they drop off dramatically. He's done 6 so far. Bender desperately needs to keep up with KD. He needs to give it absolutely everything. Meanwhile, Alp is in trouble. He is under attack here. Not looking good in that Ferrari. Does it have any sort of damage? No, front wing's intact. He just doesn't have the pace at the moment. He's not liking these conditions. Kevin Schmeg on the attack, heading towards Pouon. He is right behind Alp now, applying plenty of pressure. Heading into turn 12, very close there. And JCK just watching, waiting patiently. Running a bit wide there, that most likely would have been a warning. Just knowing what the game is like. Top 2 now separated about 2.3 seconds. Now with 3 laps to go. Can Blender do anything? 2.5 seconds. Alp under assault, heading towards Eau Rouge and Radillon. Captain Schmeg will get DRS, but he's spending ERS too quickly. Is he going to be close enough to attack? He's got next to no ERS left. He goes for the move. Gets it done. He's into 3rd now. Alp now down in 4th. He's got JCK all over the back of him. That's probably a warning as well. Oh, see how much closer JCK got on the brakes there. Through turn 10. It's starting to spread out a little bit, this trio. Unfortunately for Captain Schmeg, it's going to be difficult for him to hold on to 3rd place, as he's got that 3-second time penalty. The gap now 3 seconds almost between the top 2. This is where the soft tyres start to fall off, as KD built up a big enough gap. This is it, 2 laps to go, 3.2 seconds is the gap. Oh, I hate to think of what this guy's tyres are looking like, and that gap has closed a little bit as well, down to 2.8 seconds. It's about 3 seconds at the start of the lap. Heading into Les Combes, gap 2.9. Both drivers still on 3 seconds each in terms of penalties. JCK is on the attack, and he's into 4th place. Will he go for 3rd here? No, he won't. He's not close enough. He didn't have enough momentum to attack for the podium place, but he's right in behind the Haas. He is ready to try and claim that 3rd place for himself. Meanwhile, KD is still doing a good enough job to hang on here. Gap 3.1 seconds. These two are definitely finishing 1st and 2nd. The battle for 3rd is still on. It's just a matter, does KD win it or does Blender win it? How are those tyres still hanging on? Into Blanchimont once again. 3.2 seconds. So KD hasn't gained any time over the course of this lap. This is it. The final 7 kilometers of this race. The final lap has begun. 3.1 seconds separate the top two. Can KD's tyres make it to the end? He's been pushing incredibly hard. Then there's this, a battle for third. Captain Schmeg is leading it. But he's got a very fast AlphaTauri rising behind on the attack. The gap is closed between the top two. 2.7 seconds now. And here comes JCK. He's got a run. It's a fairly straightforward overtake. He's into third place. He is now onto the podium. And with a clear air in front of him, he'll plan to pull away. 2.6 seconds. The gap is closing. It's not closing enough, though. Will these tyres make it? We're right on board. Incredibly careful. Gap is rapidly closing. 2.3 seconds now. KD cannot afford to get another penalty. If he does, that is race over for the win. Now the gap is 2 seconds. Through Blanchimont for the final time. So long as he doesn't make a mistake here, it's going to be a win. Around the final corner now. He keeps it well within the right lines. He takes the win here at Spa. It's going to be a 1.7 second gap at the end between the top two. And JCK will come across the line in third. Alp will jump up to fourth place because of penalties. Captain Schmeg will drop down to fifth place. But there we go. Those tyres did die off in the end. Unfortunately for Blendo, it was too little too late. There we go. Kimi finishes in 6th place. Bean recovers to finish 7th. Detail in 8th. Snake and Beans in 9th. And Flavius rounding out the top 10. Seth in 11th. JC in 12th. Doberman in 13th. Lake Show in 14th. And our final point scorer, Sully, in 15th place. Hildebeest come across the line. He will finish in 16th with Lucid in 17th place. But dearie me. What a strategy call from Blender. It's paid massive dividends for him. Pitting that early under the final safety car. It's rewarded him with a podium finish. JCK fought well. Actually, the entire top 3 did. KD making up 3 positions, Blender making up 4, JCK making up 4. But you can quite tell who's driver of the day. Kimi up 12 positions from his DNF in qualifying. There we go, driver of the day for him. And now the podium celebrations. It's win number 2 for KD, a win in Austria and a win here at Spa. That final stint on the soft tyres, he made them work to perfection. I thought he'd be in deep trouble after driving so hard on that tyre. I was wrong. Got him to the end. Blender finishes in a fine 2nd. JCK in 3rd. The unofficial results. We mentioned the top 3. Alp in 4th. Schmeg in 5th. Driver of the day goes to Kimi in 6th. Bean in 7th. Detal in 8th. Snake and Beans in 9th. Flavius in 10th. Seth in 11th. JC in 12th. Doberman in 13th. Lake Show in 14th. Sully in 15th. Hildebeest in 16th. And Lucid rounds out the finishes in 17th. Non-finishers Nero, Nix, Passassin and Laquito after crashing out during the race. Not a bad one here at Spa. The weather definitely threw up a number of obstacles for the drivers to overcome. But in the end, it is KD who comes out on top with fastest lap as well. 1 minute 44.706. Well, I reckon that just might conclude proceedings here at Belgium. I'll just quickly get race director, seeing as we have the time to do so, so then if there are any stewards' inquiries, they can simply look at the stream if need be. But yes, not a bad race at all. Spa really doesn't fail to disappoint. It tends to develop some fantastic racing, and today was definitely no exception to that. Next week, though, it's going to be interesting. Singapore Grand Prix at Marina Bay Street Circuit. It's Formula One's endurance race. I think it's the best way to describe it. It's the longest race of the season by some margin. Incredibly difficult sort of racetrack, very tight, twisty. You've got a few overtaking opportunities though on the racetrack, and we'll see those when we get there. But if it rains, if there's any safety cars, it's going to be an incredibly long night. And of course, Singapore famous for being the first ever night race in Formula One history. It's also the hottest, I think, on average on the calendar, simply because Singapore is right on the equator. Thankfully for the drivers in the virtual world, we don't have to worry about that sort of stuff. But it's still a very tiring race, and drivers will definitely be pushed to the limits for next week. But until then, I've been the Smeg. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next week for the Singapore Grand Prix at Marina Bay Street Circuit. Till then, goodbye.